Okay, we're here with ARK from 808 Breakers, Floorgangz. Uh, Originally from Hawaii, now in San Francisco, Bay
Yep,
Area.
the Bay Area. Yep.
Bay Area, cool, cool. Um, yeah, I'm pretty excited to talk to you today. He's one of these really inspiring people within the breaking community. Um, yeah, I guess the first thing that I kind of want to ask you about is like, yeah, I always see your classes on, you share some stuff on Instagram about your classes, and especially now that everyone's in like lockdown, and a lot of people are maybe teaching online, but you're still
Mm.
so dedicated to your students and stuff. And yeah, like, so maybe you can share with us a little bit about your
Yeah,
philosophy
yeah,
with teaching, or just your approach or whatever, like whatever you want to say.
absolutely. I mean, I'll start with what's going on now, but first, of course, thanks so much for having me. This is fun, and pretty excited just to open up about this because I feel like there's not a lot of conversations about just teaching this dance in
Yeah,
general,
yeah, yeah.
at least in the U.S.
Hmm.
Because I think there's kind of it's almost like a Cobra Kai guarded secret to my teaching kind of like mystique that has developed in the last few years. I feel, or from my experience I've seen. But what's going on right now, obviously due to the pandemic, everybody's in lockdown, and a lot of people that work privately as well as publicly, so within dance studios or after school programs, are being kind of forced into this distance learning model. And I think the first thing that stood out to me in trying to adapt teaching to that model is taking a step back and having the perspective that the way that breaking is learned, generally speaking, by active practitioners like yourself or myself, is different from the studio or even after school or like classroom paradigm or environment. And so even when I was seeing my kids in person, I realized, like I was adapting a style of learning, a model of learning. Even if I simulated certain things or like ciphers or battles at best, I'm still adapting the environment because by its nature of like paying money and showing up to with the intention to learn something from one single person, and you're doing these drills, you're listening to someone talk, that's just like fundamentally different than how I would say the majority of practicing b-boys who continue to do this dance, or b-girls, after 10 to 15 years have gotten into or learned this dance. So with that perspective in mind, really trying to wrap my mind around how to best engage my students through like the internet and through platforms like Zoom, or even like pre-made produced videos on YouTube or Vimeo. I started kind of like with that concept in mind, that I still want to bluntly address the contextual difference in learning, even by yourself, if you're just going to be taking in a video or doing a Zoom class versus like labbing out in your living room, listen, just getting into music, getting into your own body. So with the exercises and things that I do kind of mold to fit, I guess, a Eurocentric like Western dance paradigm, the stuff that I've molded into that, I try my best to get kids moving or get them into a state where they are more kind of like open to intrinsically motivating their own dance. So that's a bunch of fucking words, but what I'm trying to be sensitive of a lot of parents who now have to see their kids probably more than they thought they'd ever see them, and deal with millions of emails from their public schools and all the other programs and cool things
Right.
that they're doing. And so trying to be respectful of that, I realized that it was best for me to kind of curate to curate a menu of not just moves, but drills and lessons, like conceptual ways to engage kids' minds with how they perceive this dance through a screen, whether it's through Zoom or through something I give them, or if
Right.
they venture out into YouTube and they watch a battle, or they watch like your stuff on Patreon. So this was something that we talked about before, is like how do you establish a model for how to digest and interpret information for this dance?
Yeah.
And that's related to how this dance is developed itself, and like how do those things kind of like go together. So a lot of my content is basically week after week packaging 1 to 3 different videos and emailing it out to kids right now. And there's instructional content where it's kind of traditional in the tutorial sense of like revealing a move and then teaching a short combination or choreography sequence that's 1 to 2 counts of 8 that uses that move. So that provides a contextual framework in movement for how to combine that, let's say a footwork step to a freeze or a power move, or access it from standing up. And then I don't know if you've ever done P90X or any of those like internet workout things. Yeah. So when I was in college, I knew a bunch of people actually that were crazy about it because they were chasing like 6-pack abs. And what stuck out to me through kind of doing a couple of those workouts is that you're like engaging with a screen of a person or several people, just warming up and like getting physical. And it's almost like a video game. It's kind of like almost like a Wii Dance or Just Dance kind of thing, where you have a quantitative number of reps to do a thing and a time frame to do it. And the music sound quality is good enough that it does provide some kind of like contextual mood. So I try to always include at least one video that isn't so demanding as far as like specific, like you need to drill this movement, you need to do baby freezes or whatever. It's a little bit more open-ended with music that I've mixed, and creating at least the quantitative boundary of time to be like, for our basic level kids, like freeze dance, like you're gonna dance for 60 seconds, okay, and stop. The screen says stop, and it's like footage of me practicing and like doing shit that I fail at doing on big stages. And then it's like green light, like go, like it's freeze dance basically. And then to higher degrees where for advanced kids, I've made some videos that are drill based around phrasing, like the 2 counts of 8 or 4-bar phrasing that's like really common in most Western music in the last 40 years or so, and especially with music that's being produced in the breaking scene, where like an accent in a beat will come on the 8 or the 1 every 2 counts of 8. Kind of like Jan the Shrimp's Break Smart concept. So basically creating that prompt through a video to get kids to work out or to like basically battle a television screen. And it's like 2 counts on, breathe for 2 counts, and it's like my practice footage, and 2 counts back on, 2 counts off, 2 counts on, off. Cool. And it's like, how many rounds did we do? Like fucking like 12 rounds in 12 short rounds in like 5 minutes. And then other things that are kind of like, I guess similar to what Focus does, but I respect and I appreciate like Focus's stuff is like the most thoughtful, like intentional teaching through a media platform that I've ever seen. But stuff that's dumbed down versions of that can be digested by kids who haven't really maybe passed the threshold for self-motivation in this dance, or are just kind of casually doing it recreationally and just need to have some kind of prompting to just move. And unfortunately, I think nowadays a lot of kids and adults like look for that permission, the permission to do their own thing, their permission to move in their body, the permission to even listen to a type of music, like a kind of music. And I think like teachers, whether they know it or not, and whether the kids even know that they have this buzzing in the back of their head, like that is the dynamic, like when we talk about freedom or like freestyle or whatever it is, like freedom of expression, it's like you learn tools to express yourself, but in doing so, you're also to really get that freedom, like you need to find the permission, confidence, the other words for it. And that comes from like mentors and people that kind of show you the way. It can be as simple as like, yeah, you can do it. Like you did 1 windmill. I mean, try to do a head spin. You might die, but you can do it, and like stuff like that. And sometimes people really surprise themselves. I think that's part of like the wonders of teaching.
Thank you.